This episode brought to you by
Audible.
Oh my God, I'm terrified of Mikey. Audible, for 30 days free and a book to get you started, go to audibletrial.com/horrorvirgin. And for your book recommendation,
Jen.
Jeez. All right. Hey, guys, today I am recommending one Pet Semetary. It's awesome. It's red.
What?
I know. Can you believe
I'm
it?
so shocked.
If you like Pet Semetary, I want you to also check out Revival by Stephen King. It's not a sequel to Pet Semetary, but it's got a lot of very similar
It's what about Jonestown, right?
It's almost like he ripped his own book off and then wrote another book about it.
Have you read Revival?
No.
So, no, it's not at all like that.
This episode also brought to you by Nick B.
Hey, Nick B.
Wait, he lives in England. I got a real fact about Nick B.
What?
That's right.
How did you get a real fact out of him?
I stalk all of his social media now.
That
Mikey,
man's more
Detective
tight-lipped
Mikey
than
on the track.
I was like, give it to me, Nick. Give me all your facts.
Detective Mikey's kind of like a discount Detective Mikey.
yeah. I mean, fair.
Yeah, I mean, he'll find you, but he might call you the wrong name. So Nick B wants you to check out God Country. They met their crowdfunding goal, which is awesome, but they're still making the movie, and they still need your support. So go follow them on social media. It's God Country Film.
Yeah, help spread the word. At God Country Film.
Yep.
And GodCountryFilm.com is their website. Yeah, absolutely. This episode also brought to you by
Carl. Hey, Carl.
Carl doesn't have anything specifically he wants to plug, but I think you should check out his Twitch stream at
I think so, too.
twitch.tv/CarlosMOL.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Thank you guys for supporting us on Patreon. If you want your very own weekly Patreon shout out, go to patreon.com/horrorvirgin and, sign up there or, whatever. We got a lot of great levels. You don't have to be a burn it down guy.
That's right.
You can come on at a lower thing.
Yeah, light it up.
Yeah, you can just whatever.
Yeah, maybe you're a Murderfoot kind of girl.
Yeah. So we wanted to start reading 5-star reviews that you guys leave for us.
Yes, thank
so we
you
can
so
shout
much
out
for
those of
leaving
you who are
those.
supporting the podcast. We really appreciate it. So we're going to have Mikey read one of our most recent 5-star reviews. We actually got a few this week. It was very nice.
It was
Good
awesome.
week for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
We always appreciate it. And I like reading.
You like learning to read. For sure.
This week's review is a contradiction. 10 out of 10, he says.
I know. And he gave us 5 stars. I saw that.
10 out of 10, 5 stars. Pillowman Dude says, my brother made me listen to this and now I can't stop. Thanks.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate
Pillow Man. That
Thank
was
you,
awesome.
Pillowman Dude. But Pillowman Dude's brother, he's the real hero.
Yeah.
So if you want us to read your 5-star review,
Go make one.
yeah, go
like
leave us a
Pillowman
review.
Dude.
Yeah. Be like
Leave us a
Pillowman
review.
Dude and or Pillowman's Dude brother.
Yeah. And if you've already left us a review, make your sibling leave us one too.
Yes.
Use small words.
In case we make Mikey read it.
Bring in that music that begins the thingy.
You're like purred happily from Parks and Rec. Would you please bring in the music that is the theme?
I don't want a pity opening.
Mikey, it's been long
And
enough.
I've got a lot.
I bet you take a video opening.
Welcome to Horror Virgin, everybody. We finally got there.
That's what Mikey's going to say.
It took a lot of pity, but we finally made it happen.
Oh, my God.
Hey, I'm Jen.
Dear Diary. Today was a great day. Oh, I'm Mikey.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
We watched the Pet Semetary remake.
Yes, it was the remake. It was not
was.
the original.
No.
I have not seen the original.
You've never
Have
seen
you
the
not?
original, so you didn't know what the story was going to be at all.
No, I was excited about
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Let's just do first thoughts real quick.
Okay.
So, you've seen the original, Jen.
Yes.
I've seen the original, but it's been since I was 9.
And
So
Jen
I
read the
honestly,
book.
Yes, Jen has read the book.
Yes.
Probably more than once. I'm guessing.
I've read this book probably at least 10 times.
Not
I read this
allowed.
book more than any other book that I've read.
What?
Yeah,
This
it's-
more than it?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
Oh, yeah, I
Because you
love this
connect to it more than, well, maybe
I
not.
do.
But
She
I've always
goes over
thought you
this
did.
in the blog.
I don't have a blog about this one.
Yet.
I have that's true.
This is the movie that made you scared of scary movies, right, Tom?
Well, it was this and The Omen. So I've seen the original, and
Yes.
it was one of the 2 movies that I watched. I think I was 8 or 9. I can't remember how old I was, but I remember the house I was in. I remember what the TV looked like, and I remember it very vividly. And it
Yeah.
was this and The Omen, and this is the reason I hate scary movies. But I honestly don't remember much of it because it was when I was 9, and I'm 98 right now. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, I think I saw the movie before I read the book, and I remember being terrified of the movie.
Well, the movie was already out even when we were kids.
Exactly.
So
yeah, and it was before I was reading books like these.
Yeah.
But I saw it and it scared the shit out of me. And then I read the book and I love the book. This is in my top 5 favorite of all time books. But since I have had kids, I have not been able to read this book again. And when I was doing my chronological reread, I started it and I knew what was going to happen. And I was was like, we'll see. And I got to the page where a certain thing happens, and I just could not go any further.
we can say what it is. We're going to spoil the movie.
Yeah,
so.
we're going to spoil the movie. Let's just say right now, we're going to spoil the movie, and we're going to spoil the book too. And they're different, but we're going to spoil them both.
All right, so Mikey, what are your first thoughts on it?
I liked the movie up until the end, and then I felt like it really went off the rails.
I do feel like it went super off the rails at the end.
I have a lot of questions for Jen because Stephen King is known for bad endings, but this ending was so bad, I think it was worse than an ending that he could have come up with.
Well, and I do think, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, but I don't remember the original movie Pet Semetary ending, but I certainly don't remember it being this. And I think the book is different too, right? So I'm sure we'll talk about it as we go through it. So yeah.
Because I'm also going to call out that Stephen King is not known for bad endings. Stephen King occasionally has endings that people disagree with. Mr. I've only read 7 of his books.
You sound so prestigiously nerdy.
Because of reading?
Todd, he is not known for bad endings.
Well, actually, only a certain subset of book readers do not like Stephen King's endings.
You've only read 17 books.
I probably have only read 17 books total, and that includes like Seussian type shit. So yeah, I just don't read books. So let's just get into this fucking movie.
Okay, but first let me say I am going to talk a little bit about how the book and the movie are different.
Yeah, like we did with It.
Like with It,
yeah,
but I'm really only going to make an effort to only talk about the differences when it's essential to us talking about the movie. But just like with It, if you want to really listen to an awesome deep dive into this book, check out the Stephen King cast. He's got a fantastic episode on the book and the original movie. And you should also check out the Losers Club podcast because they have an awesome episode about the book and the movie too.
It opens up on where Todd's never going to go again.
Oh yeah, for real. So we're over like just tons of woods and lots of trees, and then we see a house on fire, and then we see.
Do we?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't remember
looks
that.
like a bug because I think your terror caused you to check your phone quite a few times in this movie.
Oh yeah, and I was during some very scary moments, and I'll tell you about them when we get there. I was looking into the corner of the theater, not the corner of the screen, the corner of the theater, with my hat pulled way down low.
Because you were scared, or because you thought you saw something?
Well, no.
The corners where the ghosts hide, Todd.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why you got to check out the corners.
I know. You got to look at them.
So then we see the car, and it's outside of a house, and it's got blood on the windows. Fuck. Okay.
This is the beginning?
Yeah.
This is the credits.
The very beginning. And now we know because of what happened at the end, the car door is open and there's blood on it. So we know what happened at the end. And I was really going to try to pretend that thing at the end that we all know is going to happen didn't happen.
Oh, when they murdered the 2-year-old?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but because
absolutely.
we see this now, I'm still going to pretend that something else happened because that makes me really sad.
No, I mean, they definitely killed that kid at the end.
I know, but I can pretend that it didn't happen because it didn't happen in the movies.
Obviously, I don't want kids to be murdered in any situation, but I realized it was a movie and I didn't like the ending.
You didn't want Ellie to die when she came back?
Oh, evil kids are different.
Yeah.
Demonically possessed.
Right.
Are different. I mean, like kids like in the real world.
Yeah, I got you.
No, I'm telling you though, it's different.
So that was a flash forward then at the beginning.
That was a flash forward.
Shit,
yeah.
I missed all that.
And so we see a bloody scene, and then we fade to white, and we see them driving down the road to their new house, and they're all in the car and they're all happy. They pull up to their new house.
And it's like they're moving from Boston to the woods.
Right.
Why would you do that?
It's a very cabiny
God.
house, and they're talking about how they now have this giant wood
50
backyard.
acres of woods.
Yeah.
First off, that's a lot of land. They must be rich.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a doctor, and he's moving to his job is the head doctor at this university medical center.
University clinic or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Not Vanderbilt University
He
Medical
kept calling
Center.
it the clinic, which, I mean, it was on a campus.
It's
it was a university
It's like the clinic
medical
to
center.
serve the students of the.
I had
Sure.
one of these in my college. It was just a walk-in, mini.
Yeah, you would go get penicillin shots all the time. I get it. That makes sense.
Brother, no. It's more like, how do you deal with mild depression because people won't talk to you?
Yeah, I've been there.
I broke my leg.
A snake punched me with his face. Did he bite you? No. So anyway, they do arrive at their
They
new
get to
house.
their new house. Yeah.
It's got a tin roof. I like that.
It
You
does.
can hear the rain on it.
It's like a barn house. Yeah, so they're moving in, and then we see a big truck that scared the fuck out of Todd.
Yeah,
What,
and it's the same
5
truck from the
times now?
goddamn trailer, man. And it scared me again.
Well, I saw that in the trailer, and I think I immediately started crying because I thought what happened in the book was going to happen in the movie, and it wrecked me.
Well, what happens in the book?
But we'll get there.
Okay.
All right.
But this is a cheap jump scare, and there's a few of these.
It's cheap, but it's also very ominous.
We see 8 trucks in this
Yeah.
movie at different times.
It's a truck heavy
and
movie.
they're all speeding.
Well, and that's one of the things they talk about in the book a lot is that they're moving onto this busy road and it's just not safe because the trucks go down it really fast.
How in the country roads are real busy.
Well, it's busy, it's a trucking throughway.
No, it's a 2-lane road. That's a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit.
At most.
Yeah, but if nobody's ever on there and you're a trucker and you got to make it to your place.
That's illegal. I'm pretty sure they have governors on their trucks. Usually they have like
governors?
It's all, yeah,
it'll stop you from going too fast.
Yeah,
and they have that number on the back you can call if they're speeding.
Do you think they called that number after their child was killed?
No, it was covered in her blood.
Yeah.
We're all going to hell.
Not me though, because I did not laugh. Did you hear the record?
I'm gonna come back with a Pet Semetary and be like, I was there for joking. I've come to take you back. To comedy hell.
Yeah, all right, sorry. Can we move on?
Yeah. All right. So they're talking, and they've moved to Boston. He said
they moved from Boston.
They moved from Boston. He was like working the night shift in the ER. It looks like they're happy about it. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure he's happy about it, but I mean, he's sort of young-ish. He probably finished his residency not too long ago.
Yeah.
And had a shitty shift at like a big hospital there, and wanted to have a day shift, so he took this job in the country.
In the book, he's 36.
He's probably been working for 6 years.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't have like the best shift at Boston General University. Yeah. All I learned from this is that if you move to the woods,
you're fucked.
Yeah,
this is why I live in a city.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever will I live in the woods.
So then Ellie and
Ellie's the daughter.
Ellie's the daughter, and Rachel is the mom, and they are unpacking in the house the next day.
Yeah, and this is when the dad, whose name escapes me, goes to his job.
Yeah,
he's working at the clinic.
And he's talking. Okay, and so this is like a university clinic. So you're thinking there's not going to be too much that's happening here.
Can I say one thing about this movie that is really positive before we move on to the job stuff? What I love about this movie is that they set up that whole house and they unpacked their furniture and they painted the walls and hung up all the frames, and it looked like a real house.
It did look like a real house.
Which is a big change of pace for us as a group, where these people just put a poster on top of gray painted walls, and it didn't look like a haunted house, and I was really happy about it. It's not like The Conjuring where there's cracks everywhere and ghosts coming out of them.
But yeah, so they're unpacking their boxes, and then they hear noises in the woods, and this is the first clue that they need to get the fuck out of this house. Because
I would have moved away immediately.
Exactly, because there are creepy kids in masks, like playing the drums and like processing through the woods
with a wheelbarrow full of dead dog.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's not something you go investigate further. That's something that you walk to your car and you say, okay, I've had enough.
And these kids are wearing masks.
And not like kid masks, like evil masks.
Like homemade out of bark animal masks that definitely show that they want to kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
You leave immediately. And that's why I hated this movie. It's like they were actively trying to die. They make every wrong decision you could make every step of the way.
Yeah, and let me say the thing that is fantastic about the book, because you're right, there's so many places where you could say, oh, I would never do that. I'm safe, But in the book, and one thing Stephen King is really good at is getting inside the heads of his characters and explaining. And endings, yeah.
He's really good at endings, right, Mikey? You love the endings.
And explaining their thinking and say, now look, he's not known for fantastic endings, but I mean, I think it's a far cry to say out of 70 books, he's known for shitty endings. So let's not shit on Stephen King.
He's written 70 books?
I've read 10%. Todd.
He's like the L. Ron Hubbard of horror.
Yeah. Anyways, but so what's great about this book is he really gets inside the heads of his characters and he explains their thinking. And so it doesn't seem like a crazy thing they're doing. You understand why they're doing all of this stuff. And he takes time to really unpack how they're feeling and why they're making these crazy choices. But we just don't have time for that in the movie. And it's hard to show thought processes in a movie.
I actually followed most of their choices and thought processes in the movie up until the last 15 minutes. Like I said, I think it goes off the rails and ruins the rest of the movie.
Well, and that is the point where it is completely different.
I've heard you talk about this as like, it's dealing with grief of you losing a lost child and stuff. And I followed all that, and I understand the motivations of the neighbor and the motivations of the dad, and I really understood that until the end, and I was just like, well, the ending ruins that whole metaphor, or ruins that whole.
I don't think it ruins the whole metaphor. No, it didn't ruin it for me.
No, I don't think it does either.
I hated it, and I thought the ending was stupid, but I understood what the point they were trying to make.
Oh, yeah, so they're running through the woods, and they're like, okay, let's go back to the house and watch a show, because this is creepy as fuck.
Well, that's what the mom, Rachel, says to Ellie, the daughter.
Let's get out
the
of
kids
here.
with masks have a dead dog in a wheelbarrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, what are you doing?
So they're probably like, get off my property, kids. Get that dang dog off my property.
So the kids go to bury their dog in the pet cemetery, right?
Yeah, and then they go back inside, and the mom starts unpacking, and she unpacks a picture of Zelda.
I didn't know they went back inside.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do go back inside because Ellie's looking at a show, and she's watching a show, and you see her like looking at boxes, and she sees that her mom's not looking, and then she goes back outside.
Okay, I must have missed that.
She's watching SpongeBob. Mom opens up her diary, sees the picture of her sister, zones out for half an hour. Lets Ellie wander off.
Well, I mean, Ellie knew she wasn't looking and snuck off. But yeah, so Ellie is wandering around in the pet cemetery, and she
goes to climb what do they call that in the movie?
The deadfall.
The deadfall. Okay.
Yeah. It's like the barrier.
It looks like a big beaver dam. It's like a bunch of wood intertwined. It's not like an actual fence or anything.
I would need to see a map because couldn't they just walk around it?
Yeah. Easily walk around that.
Well,
for sure.
I think the way it's described is the forest is just so dense there that it's a kind of a natural barrier too. And it's like marking a trail too. Like there was a trail going up there and they built that deadfall there. But yeah, so then she starts to climb it, and then Judd shows up and says, "Hey, you get down off of my obstacle." And then she falls down, she gets stung by a bee. And so Judd comes up to help her. And this is different from the book a little bit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. In the book, Judd takes them up to the pet cemetery and explaining everything and giving them a tour of it.
That makes more sense. Like, hey, you guys might want to know that there's a really creepy pet cemetery in your backyard.
Yeah.
Well, and he's kind of explaining it like it's the pet cemetery part of it is not creepy. This is a way that kids honored their pets, and it's just a part
of
honestly,
life. If you bury your pets there, they don't come back. That's a fine pet cemetery. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
This movie should not be called Pet Semetary.
What should it be called?
How to Lose Your Family in 10 Days.
All right.
I mean, it's about that time.
All right. It is. It's just everyone makes the worst decision you can make 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Every single person, even Gage.
And so I always think about
the 2-year-old.
Oh, Gage. Poor Gage.
He didn't gauge that situation.
No, he did not.
I always think about that I think about it as like a Fargo kind of situation where you make one bad choice and then you just keep following it with more and more and more bad choices till you're the point where you can't get out of it.
Oh, yeah. I would call this Stephen King's series of unfortunate events.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so then we meet Judd. And it's
Judd's
John
great.
Lithgow.
And Judd, he's so good. In everything. Even 30 Rock from the Sun.
God, he was
30
so
Rock from the
good
Sun?
in that.
Holy
30
shit.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was Jonathan Lithgow. It was Tina Fey. It was great.
That show would have been amazing.
I
Alec
would
Baldwin.
watch that.
Oh,
That would
yeah.
be
It's
awesome.
so good.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt too.
Oh, absolutely.
I love him.
It's just Alec Baldwin saying snarky shit to Jonathan Lithgow and then him freaking out on him like an
way
alien.
overacting.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so good. Third Rock from the Sun, clearly.
But John
so
Lithgow's amazing in everything.
He's so good at a wide range of things. He does comedy so well. He can do serious stuff so well. He was Winston Churchill in a movie and nailed that. And there's a slight little nod to that, or maybe it wasn't, but I felt like it was in this movie. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Oh, I know who Winston Churchill is.
What I didn't like is that they uglied him up for this part.
Well, they olded him up, I think.
No, he's pretty old.
They added tobacco stains on his face.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Well, I mean, he's supposed to be like a country hick.
I just love Judd so much. Now, I did want more of him in this movie because he is a bigger part of the book and the original movie. Yeah,
I honestly wanted more of him and less of everyone else.
So he and Lewis in the book become
Lewis is the dad? I'm sorry.
Is the dad.
Okay.
Yeah, they become really close, and he's almost like a father figure. And he goes and has beers with him every night.
He's like George Michaels.
Yeah.
I can be your father figure. Bury your dead cat on the hill. Maybe we shouldn't get into this.
We'll workshop it.
I like it. I like where it's going, though.
Work it out.
I feel like there's something there. Someone give me George Michael. You just got to have faith that your cat's going to come back from the dead.
Well, you know who didn't have faith was Lewis at the beginning of the movie.
Yo,
he said,
teacher. Hang on. When you're talking to your kid about I hated that scene so much. Are we there yet? I have things to say, but I want to wait till we get there. Because shit, man. All right, go on.
Okay, so Judd finds her, and they kind of become friends a little bit. He fixes the bee sting, and so then Rachel comes up and meets Judd, and she's like, "Okay, strange man, why are you talking to my daughter in the middle of the woods?"
That's a fair assessment of what's going on. And they're still at the pet cemetery, and it's an old man and your young daughter.
Right.
You're going to be like, what the fuck is happening right now? Although he's not doing anything wrong. He's helping her.
And he very clearly is like, Mom, she got a bee sting.
Exactly.
And he's very nice and kind.
It's not safe to wander around in the woods, which I think is a good thing for the daughter to hear him say, too.
Yeah.
So then they go back in the house, and this is when I think they start talking about death that night, because Ellie's just been to the pet cemetery, and she's kind of starting to think through what death is.
Yeah, because she's like, why do pets not live as long as people? That's what starts the discussion.
Right. They start talking about metabolism,
which I thought was like not a great answer.
Yeah, if you're going to talk to your kid about metabolism and not death, there's something wrong with that.
And he's very matter of fact about death, as it's just part of life, and I don't think.
But it's almost like that he and his wife, Lewis and Rachel, have never talked about like what they, not even what they're going to tell their kids, what they believe happens when you die. And that's shit you talk about third date. And they just haven't talked about that.
No, you're absolutely right.
Like I've been dating my girlfriend like 9 months, and I know how she feels about like what happens when we die. This dude has 2 kids with his wife and has no idea she's Christian.
That's true. Okay.
He's been working a lot.
Apparently.
That's why they moved.
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah.
So like, what's your favorite color?
I know, right? Hang on one second. What's your middle name?
It's your maiden name, right?
Wait, your name's not Zelda? Which sister did I marry? What is happening right now?
He didn't marry the twisted sister.
Oh, shit. Oh, Mikey, I love it. That was great. But yeah, so he's like talking to his wife, or he's talking to his kid, and his wife is like, and then they go to heaven and look down on you. And he's like, nah, bitch, what happens is you die.
It's a dark oblivion.
You put your body in the ground and you become food for worms.
In front of their daughter, too, who does not know which one to believe and is like, well, first of all, my parents are arguing in front of me about a very heavy topic.
Yeah, they have a passive-aggressive god-off.
Right, exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I just say pets love too much to stay around as long as we do.
Yeah.
Their hearts are too big.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this book because it's just an examination of death from lots of different angles. And you can see Lewis is very like matter of fact, and Rachel is terrified of death. And part of it is because of her sister and this traumatic experience she's had.
You're right. They never talked about anything. When she finally opens up about what happened to her sister, I'm like, you guys haven't talked about this before?
I know.
And after one sentence from me, you're going to do it now?
Like, I know you're sad about your sister, Winky Blinky.
Yeah, don't you think it's time to open up
on her? He's like, I know you're sad about your sister, but wouldn't you be happier if we were a boning?
Well, and then he says, wouldn't you be happier if you just opened up? And she's clearly really sad about it. And then she just immediately tells him. Yeah, the relationship between the husband and the wife, I did not really
I mean, it is nice because we get to see them with their kids and like have that family life.
Yeah.
But we also get to see them have their first few dates.
Exactly. Like, how do you not know some of this stuff?
They were married at first sight. I watched that show. And I think she got knocked up on that season.
I saw them. I think they were on season 3 of 90 Day Fiance.
Their relationship is just terrible in this movie.
Yeah. Okay, so they talk to Ellie about death, and then they go back to their room and have their parent conversation. And she's like, what the fuck was that? Why did you say that to our daughter?
I wanted to talk to you about that because we're going to tell our daughter that God doesn't exist and there's nothing when you die.
Yeah, and now tell me about your sister.
Yeah. Open up for once. Why don't you? And then she responds to that by opening up.
Here's my sadness.
Let's just force that. That'll be great.
So we see Zelda and she's in the bed and we see baby
this is a
Rachel.
Flashback. We see because Rachel is explaining to her brand new husband that she just met about what happened to her when she was a kid.
You have a sister?
Right.
That may as well have happened at this point in the movie.
Right.
But yeah, so she's explaining to Lewis what happened, and it flashes back to her as a girl bringing food to Zelda, right?
Yes, yeah,
like
on a
going
tray.
into the room.
Because
yeah.
Zelda is bedbound because she's got spinal meningitis, I think is what it is in the book.
Is it?
But yeah, so and her back is all like bones sticking
and her
out.
shoulder blades are the same. Like she's just hunched over. She's like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, yeah.
But not as lovable.
Right. And so Rachel is obviously afraid of her because she's really young, and that's just a scary thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so she starts to turn, and we see the side of her face only, and then that's it. So
okay.
He's at the university, and he's
this is
like,
the next scene,
yeah, the next scene, and he's like, okay, here's, you got your bloody nose, and this guy needs a Band-Aid, and then everybody's freaking out and carrying this guy in on a stretcher.
I thought this is done pretty impressively because it's a girl that runs in, and she's got blood on her, but she runs in, and she looks like she's fine.
Yeah.
And then she's like, there's blood everywhere or whatever.
Yeah, the truck came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then the next cut is like to them with him on the gurney. I guess Victor Pascal on the gurney. And he looks fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
Like
he's all messed up.
Yeah.
Just barely alive, but he is still alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because one side of his face is like gone.
Yeah. And one of them's like, I can see his brain.
Oh, and then they show us his brain.
Yeah, which, by the way, if I'm on a gurney struggling for life and one of my nurses is like, it's so sick, you can see his brains.
Yeah, but I mean, these are like probably student nurses who like expected to have to.
It's a real clinic.
Well, I know, but like these are also people that are carrying them in from the street. So those people around, and like probably like if you're a university nursing student, I would imagine you might do an internship at a clinic or maybe be like a candy striper person.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let you go in with the trauma. It was a real nurse.
Well, but who else is going to go in with the trauma?
He also never got back to trauma. Like he was in a hallway when he died.
Exactly.
So like,
yeah.
no, but
he asked the nurse to go get O positive blood. That's where she went.
They also wouldn't leave him completely alone with this body. Like there would be 12 people in this room,
and
they would have sent one person to go get blood.
Yeah, so they're just not set up. Everybody's freaking out. Lewis is alone. He's trying to do compressions.
Well, because Victor dies. He
does die. Yeah, and he like looks him in the eye, and I can't remember if he says anything before he dies. But then he dies. Then he goes over and he's like stressed out, and then he turns around and Pascal's sitting up and looking at him.
Yeah, that scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah, this part of the original movie scared the shit out of me.
I knew it was going to happen because the lights were flickering, and I'm like, oh, some supernatural type shit's going on. But I don't know if this is supernatural. I don't know if Lewis is just losing his mind because clearly he's dead.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is. I think it's supernatural.
On what level? And why do you think that? I'm not saying you're wrong, but like there's no indication of that anywhere else in the movie.
Yeah, there is. There's like 14 indicators of supernatural things going on, but with Pascal.
He says the barrier was not meant to be broken.
He said, you tried to help me, I'm trying to help you. So he tries to warn him over and over again.
So,
and he tries to warn the rest of the family.
Apparently. Yeah, he's a protective spirit.
But why?
Because the guy tried really hard to like...
Sure, but how does he know that Lewis lives on that property and is about to open the barrier?
Maybe because he's been to the other side and he sees like the death waiting for Lewis.
Hello from the other side.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Hello. I always sing the Lionel Richie song. Is it death you're looking for?
I just didn't understand why he was telling Lewis.
I didn't understand why it happened in that order. I thought he would do the cat thing first, then the guy tries to warn him like, hey, you're a good guy. Don't fuck around with this stuff. It's very bad.
Right.
So wait, does Victor go to heaven and then someone from heaven is like, oh, hey, on your way out, will you just deliver this message?
No, that's why he only comes every now and then. He's like taking coffee breaks from heaven and going down there and being
so Victor did go to heaven.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume so.
I think so.
If we are agreeing that heaven exists.
But Ellie went to hell? What the fuck did Ellie do?
No, I think
Ellie, bro. Victor's a ghost. Ellie is like a body possessed by evil.
Okay, so Ellie is in heaven.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm more comfortable with the movie then. I'm not even joking. Like I was like, what the fuck did Ellie do that she went to hell?
No, that's not Ellie. That's just somebody taking her body.
And stuff and talking. Like that just tells me
I'm on board for that.
You're an evil thing inside the body of whatever that is.
I was like, but was she like baby Hitler? Like why did she go to hell? She's 8. Like what the fuck did she do?
No. I think with like the body that you bury in the Pet Semetary becomes a vessel now.
Right. That makes more sense. I'm more comfortable with that.
Okay, so Pascal has warned Lewis, and then Lewis is driving home and he almost gets hit by a truck.
Oh yeah, this is like the second truck jump scare.
Yeah, it's truck shadowing.
Oh, it was the worst.
And so he's just sitting outside, and I guess Rachel comes out and is like, "Are you gonna come in tonight?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got to tell you the sad story."
Well, he was on the porch, like he was just trying to decompress after.
I agree.
Shitty day he had.
She didn't even like pull his move. She wasn't like,
yeah. Why don't you open up?
Why don't you open up finally?
No, she does the exact opposite, which is like, don't tell me anything. Go take a shower.
Yeah, clean this up.
I don't want to hear your death story.
I've been here all day.
I'm taking a break.
I had to take care of your evil possessed daughter.
Tried to murder me like 4 times.
Yeah. He does sort of tell her that he had a rough day at work and someone died. And,
And in the book, this is his very first day at work, too.
Really?
Yeah. He's been there for like 20 minutes. And so that's part of why it's so chaotic in the book, too, is because he doesn't even know these people's names yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a rough first day at work.
I mean, that was a nice thing to do, though.
Why couldn't he be like, here are the lotto numbers?
And he's like, don't eat that Taco Bell on the way home.
It's a mistake.
Like, move your family away. That's what I would have said.
Oh, yeah. They should have moved immediately. Like, especially.
Because they saw the kids drumming in the forest.
Fuck, this family's so stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, this family deserves what they get.
They just could have built a fence. Just build a fence around your part of the property. You don't have to have access to the woods.
This movie does sort of explain why you shouldn't let your domesticated house cats outside.
Okay, and that's a plot point in the book. They neuter Church so that he won't stray.
Well, you shouldn't even let him outside. It's horrible for the ecosystem around your house.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
And they get squashed in the road.
Well, It's fine. Let me show you this hill.
Okay, so now the next time we see Ellie, she's got a little basket and she goes up to Judd's door.
Do you think she actually baked these cookies?
Nah.
No, so she takes these cookies over to Judd's house because he took it, he did the bee sting.
Yeah, and just starts wandering around his house, like looking in his gun drawer.
That is really shitty. Like this,
it kind of is.
Ellie does not understand boundaries. So so she breaks into his house. He's sort of fine with it because she has cookies.
Right.
And they become best friends.
They do, yeah. And the next thing we see is him having like family dinner over it.
Which I thought was super sweet. Like you do want to meet your neighbors, and he's sort of a lonely old man, but a great dude.
Yeah, he is
who helped
awesome.
your daughter out when she was being stupid and climbing a thing and hurt her legs.
And
so
then being stupid and breaking into people's houses with guns around. Yeah.
Oh
and in the book, the families get really tight. So then they're talking about how far back the property line goes. And he's like, it's
further back than you'd ever want to go.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is right, because that would mean going into the woods at all, which you should never do.
No.
They should have just sold the logging rights to the woods and cleared it.
It goes into that in the book that there's like a dispute over the property rights of the woods because it's owned by like an Indian tribe because it's like an
They
Indian
sort of touch on that.
They talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like when he's doing his investigating. Okay, so then Lewis has his bad dream and he is laying in bed and he starts hearing noises and he wakes up.
Is it a bad dream?
It's not really a dream.
I don't know, man. So this is what I don't really like about movies like this, because he has this quote unquote dream where he gets up, he goes to the window, sees Victor, right? Victor's reflection, turns around, sees Victor walking out the door, follows Victor out his bedroom door, and that bedroom door is just a door in the woods.
Yeah, and that's not
and
quite
now
how
he's
it happens
walking in the woods.
Yeah.
And then he sees some shit. Victor's like, don't open the portal or whatever.
That's the barrier. Don't cross it.
Yeah, don't cross this barrier. Listen to me. I have half a face. I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then he wakes up. Is this the one where he wakes up to Gage like jumping on him?
Yeah, he's like,
yeah.
It was so intense, and I thought something scary was going to happen, and then it cuts to Gage jumping on him, and I would have punched that kid. Like if I was having a scary dream like that, and then something jumped on me, I have been asleep at Natalie's place, and Natalie has a bunch of animals. One of her cats, Stormy, just got in my face. I was asleep, and he wasn't like being mean or anything, but I went, ah! And like yelled, and Stormy was like, what the fuck? And like ran away.
I'm just being a cat.
But he wasn't like pawing at me or anything. His nose touched my nose, and I yelled in his face, awake.
Oh, yeah, and that's what happens here, and it made me cry. Well, it didn't make me cry, but it made me tear up a little bit.
I would have punched that baby in the face, but not like because I meant to.
Right, just because he startled you.
Yeah, it was. Oh.
And you're having a terrifying dream. So, and I think it's meant to be like a sleepwalking thing too, because then he starts to get out of bed and his feet are all muddy.
So he decides he wakes up from the woods dream, and then he is like, oh, there's mud on my feet. So he covers his feet back up. What's the end game here? Because when Rachel, his wife, comes back in, he covers his feet up. Like, is he going to get up and like, their relationship's so
also,
terrible.
Why does it matter? Like, she's not going to be like, oh, we having a weird dream where you went out into the forest and you were told not to cross a barrier. She's not going to know any of that shit.
No, but he'd be like, I would think I was sleepwalking.
Yeah.
I've never done that before.
Could you imagine if you were sleepwalking and you woke up in the middle of those woods in the middle of the night too? Like how terrifying that would be.
That would be so terrible. But anyway, he should have just told her and watched the sheets.
Yeah,
together.
this couple needs a heavy dose of honesty in their relationship.
But so Pascal was saying, like, you tried to help me, I want to help you. And we do see that, like, he could have been like, holy shit, you're all fucked up when Pascal came in there. But he was like, no, stay with me. I'm going to help you. You're not going to die. And he was really kind to him. So I think he keeps saying, you tried to help me, so I'm going to try to help you. And he does. And yeah, we cut to Halloween. They're about to go trick-or-treating. Yeah. With like the Charlie Browniest ghost costumes ever. Like, and so they're about to get in the car and go trick-or-treating, because do not trick-or-treat on that busy truck road. And Judd's off in the corner. I was like, come here, Lewis, I need to show you something.
You gotta come here.
Yeah.
Come here.
And they walk down and Church is on the side of the road and he's been squashed by a truck.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't let Ellie see. And so Lewis goes off and takes her trick-or-treating. And
but Judd's like, come back tonight. We'll take care of it.
It'll be fine. Yeah. In the book, this is different. It happens over Thanksgiving weekend, and Lewis is completely by himself in the house, so he doesn't have to really hide anything from them. And he doesn't tell Rachel, so Rachel doesn't know anything about the cat in the book. And I think it's a little more believable that he would want to do this so that Ellie would never know and nobody would know, and he's just trying to correct the situation before they all come back.
Yeah, it's sort of like the goldfish died while everyone was away, and he bought a new goldfish.
Exactly.
Sort of like that. I mean, I realize it's very different because you don't go buy an evil goldfish.
Right.
But that's sort of what it is.
Yeah. But so he does tell Rachel what happened. He says Church is dead. And this is when they do start talking about Zelda, and we find out what happened to Zelda. Zelda.
That's my evil
Oh my
goldfish
gosh,
impression.
I just realized what you were doing. You just kept like looking around weirdly. So Todd's giving a side eye, but also making the little
how would
glub
the evil
glub.
goldfish come back? Do you think it would like slather into the house?
Swims back out the toilet.
Goldfish, why'd you jump back in the toilet?
So then we find out what happened to Zelda, and what happened was Rachel was watching her by herself and is too afraid to bring her food upstairs. So she puts it in the dumbwaiter and she's like, I know it wasn't supposed to because it doesn't always work. And somehow this dumbwaiter not working equals Zelda dying. And I'm not exactly sure
Apparently
how
when it
that
doesn't work,
happened.
it sucks disabled people into them and slams them down.
Exactly.
It made no sense to me how she ended up in the dumbwaiter shaft.
I know, all crushed up too.
I think she did it on purpose. Hot take.
You think Zelda did it on purpose?
Yeah.
I think Link pushed her. Nailed it.
I think he pushed her in there with a lot of Triforce.
He triforced her in. Nailed it.
She gets like dumbwaiter sucked into the dumbwaiter. And because we hear it goes,
She got dropped like a dumb waiter.
and then we hear like this.
It does sound like the motor in the dumbwaiter goes out. And then
It sounds like it gets stuck. And then we hear the ceiling noises and she's like slumping across the floor.
Zelda's trying to get to the food. Like all those sounds make sense to me. And then she opens her end of the dumbwaiter, I guess.
And she's like, where's my bagel bites? And then she just throws herself down.
Mom, where's the snack pack?
And so I guess she has just fallen into this thing or something. But so
Maybe she tripped. I don't know. Like this makes no sense to me.
It kind of doesn't either. And she lands at the bottom of the dumbwaiter and Rachel, we hear like a thump and then Rachel opens the door and we get like a flash of her all like crumpled and like a little like
Zelda is
foldy thing.
absolutely the scariest part of this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And I wanted more Zelda. Like I thought she was going to be a much bigger part. I thought she was going to be terrifying in this movie, and I don't think we saw enough of her. I would have liked more. And there's a scene in the trailer where she's crawling across the floor that was not in the movie. So then he goes over and he's talking to Judd, and they are going to go bury him in the Pet Semetary. And he's about to start digging in just the regular Pet Semetary, and Judd's like, how much do you love your daughter, or you want your daughter to be happy? Let's go this way. And this is one thing that bugged me because it just came out of nowhere.
There's no way that he could actually climb that.
Well, no. Okay. In the book, it talks about how like the Force wants you to be able to climb it. So like you find the footholds. But it came out of the blue. It didn't seem like it was building to anything. It was like, here's your spot. And then Judd's like, oh, hold on, let's go that way. You know, there was no build up to it.
They're not that upset that the cat's dead first off. And he's like about to bury the cat. And Jed's like, you want to not bury it there? I'd have been like,
yeah, let's go this way.
Oh, and also the Lewis and Rachel have already fought over whether they're going to tell Ellie that the cat died or not.
It's been resolved.
I would told the guy, I'd be like, it's midnight. I had this hole here. Well, I got to get things done. Let's get out of here. I'm not climbing anything to bury the cat.
Right.
And then going on a 45-minute hike with someone who's almost a stranger deeper into the woods that he knows better than me.
I think I'm just too lazy for any of this horror movie stuff to happen to me.
Oh, yeah. I definitely am too lazy.
I would have been like, you want to hike 3 more miles? I'd be like, no, this is a pet cemetery.
This is you and me, and I was burying my dead cat, and you were like, all right, bury him here. I'd be like, word, I'm going to start digging. The second I start digging, that's where that cat's going.
Yeah.
And if you were like, hey, bury him a different spot in the same cemetery, I'd be like, no, I'm already working on this hole. We're going to use this one. But if you were like, hey, let's hike for another 3 miles, I'd be like, fuck you, Mikey.
Right.
I'm burying this bitch here, and we're going back home.
I'm like, I know a really good spot for your cat 4 miles from here.
Yeah, I have to climb over what?
We have to go through a swamp.
Yeah, I'm out.
It makes sense in the book.
You love your daughter. But like the cat's dead. Like I got stuff to do, man.
Yeah, exactly.
We can always get a new cat.
And so they're walking through the woods, and this is one of the creepiest parts of the book too. And I think they did a good job of it in the movie. Like I think it was scary when they were walking through.
So then they get to the top of the hill or whatever.
They get to the steps, and they're walking up these stone steps to the top of the hill, and it's the Micmac burial ground that they get to.
Really?
Mm-hmm, that's
so
what it's called.
They cross through Paddywhack and they get to Micmac. Nailed it.
And then they give a cat a bone.
Yeah. So they're up at the top, and it's got like, you see all these, what they're called cairns, which are like kind of tombstones just with rocks stacked on it, and says, okay, here's where you bury your cat. Here you go. Go ahead. You have to do it yourself. I can't help you. Because once you are the one to bury it, that person or whatever it is you buried now becomes yours and is tied to you.
Okay, but that never comes back. That not once comes back the rest of the movie.
Yeah, that never comes back.
Which I thought was stupid. Like, that could have been cool.
I thought the whole thing was that the tribes fled because they didn't want any of this.
They did once the ground went sour, but the ground had already been sour. Before, I don't know what it was before, but there was a certain point where the ground started to become sour. And they talk about the Wendigo.
So I thought that was going to be the thing. Like the Wendigo.
Me too. I thought we'd see the Wendigo. Like the second time he walks to the forest with his daughter, I thought for sure we were going to see antlers in the fog.
Yeah.
Something that would have made it seem at all scary.
Well, we hear the far off crashes in the woods, and I think that's supposed to be like a big animal, and a big monster.
Wendigo.
Yeah, the Wendigo. And in the original movie, there's a really big face, and it's kind of cheesy. So I think that may be why they tried to stay away from that.
They could have used the antlers or something that would have been like, oh shit, was that antlers?
Right.
And it could have been really subtle and been very creepy, but they just didn't.
Okay, so then he buries Church. But first he asks Judd, what are we doing here? What the fuck? Why'd you make me come all the way up here? But
a question you should have asked an hour ago.
Yeah. Exactly. And Judd's like, nothing. We're just burying your cat. It's fine. And I think it's in the book, it's like he is kind of overtaken by the spirit of the place, and it's kind of operating everything too with this like unspoken force. But that doesn't really come across in the movie.
No, it just seems like Judd's like, I don't really feel like telling you right now. Finish up. Let's get out of here.
Do this terrible thing that I know what is going to turn out terribly, and then we'll talk about it later.
I don't know that he did think it was going to turn out terribly.
He knew that there was a strong possibility that it would have.
Well, okay, that's fair. I mean, the reason I think he doesn't know for sure is because it seemed like, at least in the movie, the only time he's ever done this was with his dog, and his dog already had temper problems.
Yeah.
So the fact that he continued to have anger issues or whatever wasn't too big of a shock. So he wasn't sure if it was actually it coming back to life that caused it to have those issues, or if it was just it, being the same as it always was.
But I think if he didn't have those hiccups, he would have used it on other stuff.
But so Judd knows that this stuff has happened. And I think that what it's meant to say is that the place is like calling for people and trying to like manipulate the things. So
anyway, they bury the cat, they leave, and then it's the next morning, and Lewis and Rachel are telling their daughter that the cat ran away. We went out looking for the cat. The cat ran away, and Ellie's like, no, I saw it last night.
Right, exactly. It was right over there, and we see one of the L's in her letters is knocked over.
And then the dad goes to the window, looks out the window, and then the mom's like, no, it ran away, and then Elle's like, Church is right there.
He's being evil in the closet over there. Yeah.
So Lewis creeps over to the closet, opens the closet door, lets Tom Cruise out, and then there's the cat right there hissing,
like covered in blood too.
The cat leaves the closet, but it is covered in blood, but it's its own blood because it was hit by the truck.
Well, yeah, but it's like
Why
death
does that
blood.
make it better? Like it's
because it hasn't killed anybody else yet. I mean, and so then Rachel comes over and they're talking. They're like, "What the fuck is going on with this cat? You told me they were dead." And Lewis is just like, "What's up with this cat?" And everybody else just kind of thinks he's weird, kind of like Ellie. They're on the same page that Ellie is. Lewis goes to talk to Judd and like, "What the fuck, Judd? What are we doing?"
He pulls the Taylor Swift and says, "Look what you made me do."
Right.
Hey, Judd, I just had some questions. My fucking cat came back alive, and like we should have talked about this.
Yeah,
I did not consent to this.
I tried to talk to you about this.
I'm not a consenting reader.
And so he says, "It's your cat now." And this is when he says.
He does. He does say that like that. But that's the only time he references if you bury it there, it's yours.
Right.
That never comes back.
So I think it's about time for me to introduce the metaphor I got from this movie.
Okay.
Which is dating, which is the pet cemetery is where you put exes down. But if you cross that barrier and you text them in the stone,
nothing good happens.
And they're tethered to you. Some relationships are better off dead.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's quite the metaphor but I can see
They
it.
never come back the same after that initial breakup.
I like it.
All right. So Ellie is petting Church and trying to comb his fur, and his fur's all matted and gross. And she's like, I don't like this cat anymore. He's stinky. And he tries to scratch the shit out of my arm for just caring for him.
Well, no, it's because he's got like tangles in his fur.
Yeah.
And
from
she's
his,
trying
like,
to get him
blood.
out, and he gets sick of it. And he's like, he just scratches the shit out of her arm.
Yeah. But she's like, I'm not into
They
this
should
cat
have just
anymore.
taken this cat to the groomers.
She doesn't want Church around anymore. She has closed the door so he doesn't come back in. And then
Ellie doesn't want him back in.
Right. And so then they are hooking up on the bed, and Church is just like tearing the shit out of this dead bird on the bed.
It's not quite dead. It's on its way to being dead, but yeah.
Right.
And so they freak out. They go clean up the bird. Doesn't Church attack Gabe at some point?
It's in the crib, and Gage is screaming about it.
Yeah, it's like on top of Gage in the crib. Yeah, I think that's
was
pretty
Gage
soon.
bloody at all?
I don't think so.
I couldn't tell, but
cat scratch fever.
Yeah.
Okay, so he goes down into the basement.
This is where we see Victor again, right?
Yeah, Victor.
We see Victor, yeah.
Yo, your family's about to die.
Yeah.
Trying to do this. Don't do this.
Hey, spoiler alert for 30 minutes later in this movie, but you're all about to die.
Yeah, he says the destruction of everything you love is very close. And in the book, he says this before he has buried the cat in the pet cemetery. And so there was still a chance to sense. Turn it around. And I'm not sure why they put it second. Because at this point,
I think at that point you could have just killed the cat and forgot about it.
Now,
and then it would have been fine.
But Corey and I were talking about this on the way home, because do you think if he had killed the cat, because there's a point where he is going to kill Church and he doesn't, and he just drives him off into the woods.
Yeah.
Do you think that it would have all turned around?
I don't know. I think you have a lot of options because there's more than one way to skin a cat.
I do.
And the cat has 9 lives too.
I do think, yes, they should have killed the cat and built a fence, and or killed the cat, burned down the house and moved.
Yeah.
Because at this point we've also, like, the house is also sort of haunted because Rachel is seeing like
Zelda.
She's seeing Zelda or hearing Zelda. And the bathroom scene where she opens the medicine cabinet and it's the dumbwaiter and then Zelda is like a vanity mirror jump scare. Like that fucking messed me up. But at that point you just grab all your kids and burn the house down and move back to Boston. There's no reason to live there anymore. Like I could never go back in that house again if that happened.
Yeah.
I don't understand this movie. This is why I hate movies like this. It's 100% of the people in these movies do the worst thing you could do 100% of the time.
Yeah, there are a couple of things in this movie that I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, so he's walking in, and it's another one of the sleepwalking scenes, and he notices that he's on the road, and he almost gets hit by a truck. So more foreshadowing.
Truck shadowing, as you said earlier.
Shadowing, yes, pardon me. And so this is when we see the Zelda flashback that you were just talking about, Zelda and the dumbwaiter and the
dude, I hated
cabinet.
that scene. So it was super scary.
But
it's like, you know, this house reminds me of. Do you remember my sister Zelda?
Yeah.
He's like, who? This? You had a sister?
Yeah, she
What's your middle
died
name?
in the wall when I was growing up. Did I tell you this?
Yeah. This is why I don't want to live in a house with walls.
Let's move to the 13 Ghost house.
Nice. That's the only logical solution.
Exactly.
She's crawling around upstairs. I don't want to go up there. I'm going to sit it up in the elevator. You're like,
all right. So Rachel's like, I don't want to live here anymore. Rachel and Ellie. And Lewis is like, nope, we can still make this work. We can still turn it around.
Just like your arm that's all scratched up, it's going to get better.
That's right.
That's what he says. Yeah, to Ellie.
And then we see some pictures, and Gage has drawn a picture of Pascal. He drew the stick figure guy with the blood all in his hair.
All over, yeah.
It's because no one else has been watching Gage the whole movie, so I'm glad Pascal's been haunting him. So at least there's some adult around.
Somebody's watching him, yeah. Okay, so then Judd and Lewis are talking about the Wendigo, and we've talked about that a little bit, but Judd's telling him about his dog that he buried up there and came back and was all mean. And this is when Judd's like, I really shouldn't have taken you up there. I feel bad. I shouldn't have done this. And yes, Judd, you should not have done that. So Lewis was going to put him down and couldn't make himself do it.
And was trying to. And that's when, and we see this again with his daughter later. Like when he's about to inject the cat Church, that it becomes like
poor
cute little kitty Church. Yeah.
Please don't kill me.
Poor purry me. And then instead of killing him, he just drives him to like a state park or whatever.
Yeah, and just
good
lets
luck,
him out.
buddy.
Yeah, and then we see Church is not happy.
I would have
about
buried
that.
it alive in the crate.
All right, cool.
But if you bury him in the pet cemetery, it would just come back alive again.
No,
but the actual pet cemetery.
Oh, the actual. Yeah, I mean that would be a cruel thing to do. But he's also an evil cat. So
and on the cross, I'd say 7 lives left.
It would just be 9, 8, 7. Okay, so then
it's the birthday party.
Yeah.
It's Ellie's birthday party, and it's like in April Fool's Day, it's like the saddest birthday party with a bunch of adults, and Ellie's really sad.
I don't know, there actually are some kids there, but you're right, it is mainly adults. But she's only 9. They invited family.
Yeah, and they've just moved. Like she doesn't know too many people around too. Yeah, but she's sad because Church is gone now, and she thinks that Church is mad because she said she didn't want him to come into her room anymore, which made me feel sad. And so then they're playing some
It's
blindfold
sort of like
game.
tag, I guess. But like Lewis blindfolds himself.
They're playing the game from The Conjuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's turning around with the blindfold and they're clapping from the road. And,
I mean, they're just playing tag, really.
but he's blindfolded.
He is blindfolded.
They're playing Conjuring game difficulty times 2.
Yeah, because they're outside.
And they're not clapping.
Imagine how many trees you would run into out there.
Or trucks.
A lot, yeah. Yeah, well, and that's what happens.
Yeah, so anyway, so they're spinning him around 10 times. He's got a blindfold on, he being Lewis.
Clap twice. Honk, honk. Oh, coming that way.
Oh, get over it.
Both Gage and their daughter Ellie go towards the road. Not in the road, but towards the road.
Yeah.
And then Ellie sees the cat. Yeah, and then goes out into the...
Yeah, and those 7 other adults disappeared.
Yeah, nobody's paying attention. They're just eating cake. And everybody, it's like hide and seek or something. And so Gage is just wandering around because he's a little toddler and nobody's watching him. And he starts to walk up to the road and the truck's coming and Lewis sees him and starts running to him and saves him just in time. And then the truck takes jackknifes and then takes Ellie out.
Yeah.
So in the book, Gage dies. Yeah. Gets hit by the truck.
The 2-year-old dies? Ellie doesn't die?
Ellie doesn't die.
I'm so confused.
I think that would be better.
I think that it is much darker for Gage to die. And that's part of the reason why this movie, the remake, was not as effective. It wasn't as emotionally devastating for me as the book.
Question. Does Gage come back and try and murder everybody?
Yes.
As a 2-year-old? It becomes child's play?
Kind of, yeah. And it's really creepy. Like, I feel like it's
Do they have
pretty well
super
done.
strength in the book?
No, not really.
They don't really have super strength in this. Ellie doesn't have super strength in this.
Yes, she does. She
drags
her mom
not.
off she drags her mom up the wall.
No, we never see that.
But it had to happen.
I think she's just determined.
It's real dumb. This is why, sort of from here on, I started to, up to this point, I was like, this is a pretty decent, scary movie. I hated it because I was scared.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it because it was bad. From this point on, it was just a bad movie.
100% agree. They established this creepy tones. They established all this plot, and they wasted.
I actually kind of thought it was slow up to this point. I was like, I need some more stuff to happen. I don't hate that they made this change because I think they just did something different, and I kind of like that. And I feel like they did something different and went with it. I like the story of the book better, but also I didn't want to watch Gage die again, so I'm happy that it wasn't Gage because I think it's easier to watch an 8-year-old die than a 2-year-old.
I don't think that matters to me. It's super sad either way.
It is, yeah. But, I don't know. I think there's just so much more care and supervision that a 2-year-old needs, and it's so much easier to blame yourself.
So they don't go into a road and get hit by a truck.
Well, but 8-year-olds
that would 1,000% be the parents' fault.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's believable that an 8-year-old would be wandering away too, but a 2-year-old, you have to be watching. Once they're walking like that and they can't really reason, you have to be right next to them all the time. So I just can't imagine the amount of guilt you would have for that.
Oh yeah, maybe.
It's not the end of the movie. Like, you have to go through the grief of the parents too, and that's even worse than the death. I think it's just sitting with this grief for a full half of the book.
And I felt like they fast forward that in the movie.
Yeah.
It's very short because we go immediately from the scene where Ellie dies in the movie. And I realize in the book it's Gage, but Ellie dies in the movie. And then it goes almost directly to the funeral, right?
Yeah.
It goes directly to the funeral. And that's super sad. They bury Ellie. And then it goes pretty much directly to the mom and Gage going to her parents' house and leaving him there. He is allowed to go. Like, he's invited to go, but he's like, I got some stuff I want to finish up or whatever. So it's sort of, not that it, I don't know.
What stuff? Why don't anyone talk about anything?
I imagine he was like going to sell the house or like try to put the house on the market or like close up. I mean, he might still have to work a couple more days too.
The day of the funeral.
It doesn't say, but I got the impression it was like a week later. But I don't know, because there is one scene where they're laying in bed talking. But I mean, that's really all you get. You get the funeral itself. You get them laying in the bed talking that night of the funeral, it seemed like. And then her boning out to go spend time with her family.
Yeah.
Which I completely get.
Oh,
there's nothing wrong with that. And he should have gone with her. I got the impression that the reason he didn't go wasn't because he wanted to sell the house or he had to work. He wanted to dig her up. He wanted to take her to the knick-knack paddywhack, give the cat a bone hill, and to bring her back, right?
Yes.
So I don't think he wanted to sell the house or anything like that. He wanted to bring her back.
And I think you can see that in the funeral because he's kind of giving Judd the eye. And Judd's knowing, like, I know what you're thinking. Also, Judd's thinking I probably caused this death by introducing you to this power.
And he straight up says that later on.
He does, yeah. But
it's not his fault, but I understand.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, I am glad that I knew this was going to be different before I walked in, because if I had not known, I would have cried when he actually saved Gage, because that's something he comes so close in the book, and then just been so pissed off that they changed everything. So I was able to like mentally prepare myself that it changed.
But at this point, so the wife has gone back to Boston, right? And then Lewis goes to have drinks with Jed. Jed? Is it Jed?
Judd. It's Judd.
Sorry. I think I may have been switching back and forth the whole pod. Sorry about that.
No, okay.
But he goes to have drinks with Judd, and
he drugs him.
Yeah, drugs him. I almost said poison, but it's not poison. He puts him to sleep.
Yeah,
he roofies him.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen happen in the book. But so he goes and he digs Ellie up. And
which would have taken a lot longer than it took him in the book.
Yeah.
If she's 6 feet under, that takes a long time to dig up.
Yeah, and there are security guards, I imagine.
And most of these caskets are in the concrete.
They are.
case,
well, I don't know if they are everywhere. I know they are here, but it's because the water table's
really?
higher here. Yeah.
Okay, so Pascal's trying to stop him as he's walking. So he's digging her up and he's carrying her through the pet cemetery. Or he's
and this is where you hear the scary monster thingy in the woods, kind of following along with the dad as he's carrying his daughter up to the Knick-Knack Paddywhack Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hope we're not like disrespecting an actual Indian tribe. I'm sure we're fine.
We might not be. I mean,
it's y'all's fault. I'm not taking credit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel bad for old Pascal because at this point he's like, well, you know what? Fuck all this. I'm going back to heaven because you're not a good listener.
And so in the book, he starts trying to help Rachel. And we see him. He's trying to reach out to Gage.
That does happen. He travels to Boston.
Yeah, and Gage is saying...
He's like, time to go to Beantown.
Yeah. You know how hard it is for a ghost to travel to Boston?
Because Lewis doesn't listen to his wife, doesn't listen to his ghost, doesn't listen to anybody.
Yeah. So Rachel's trying to call him. She's like Gage is really upset. I just want to see you. He keeps saying Pascal. And we see Gage like pointing, Pascal, want to go home. And she can't get in touch with Lewis because Lewis is all burying people up in the pet cemetery and comes back down.
But once he comes back down, he does get a hold of her, or she gets a hold of him.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, no, I'm totally normal.
Yeah, totally fine. I'm just
fine.
really... Oh, and she's like, hey... Why don't you come out here tonight and just be with us? I need you to be here with me.
I'm really upset.
Gage needs you here. And he's like, hey, I'm really beat. Love to come hang out, but want to catch some shut eye.
Exactly, yeah. But before he goes to bed, he like lays Ellie's clothes out on her bed.
Well, yeah, he knows she's coming back.
I know, it's just weird.
Could you go to sleep after doing that?
But no.
Oh my God. Anyway, so he wakes up. He wakes up in the morning to the sound of his daughter coming home.
He does, yeah. He hears noises. He walks around. He finally sees church outside, and then he sees that there's like Ellie footprints walking in, and he's looking all around the house and can't find her.
Well, no, he follows the footprints. He just follows footprints down to the basement
into the creepy closet, and he sees that bunny mask there.
Yeah, he moves that little curtain thing, sees the bunny mask, and then she's right behind him.
Yeah, and she seems like she's a little messed up, but she seems pretty normal. She's like, "Hi, Daddy."
Where am I?
Yeah, where am I?
Yeah.
Because she's not really Ellie, and she's not sure what's going on yet. And so he's like, "Oh, my daughter's back," and he's really happy. And I can imagine like he would feel like that. He's like, "Yes, it worked. She's not crazy trying to murder me." And so he goes and he gives her a bath, and he starts like brushing her hair, and her hair is all matted too. And this part
she's got staples in her head.
Just like the metaphor, they come back. You're happy to see him at first. They haven't tried to murder you. And you're like,
I guess in this conversation, like the quote unquote murder you part for this metaphor is when they're like, Mikey, where is this whole thing going?
Or actual murder.
Yeah, I do have a friend whose girlfriend stabbed him.
Do you mean ex-girlfriend?
And I think
Are they still together?
No. Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
I was wondering. I was like, are they still together?
And so then they're laying in bed, and I guess this is part of your metaphor.
Yeah, this is the part that made the metaphor.
He said it in the movie theater when they're like talking. She's laying in bed. He tucks her in, and she's like, "Will you lay down next to me?" And like the dad's eyes.
She goes, "Will you stay?
Oh yeah,
will you stay with me?
Why don't you stay?" Yeah.
And so he lays down, has a tear run down his cheek, and he looks scared to death. And I was like,
been there, bro. I heard you say that. That was so funny. Oh, I've been there.
And it's weird. Like, he clearly feels real uncomfortable, too.
Yeah.
He's like, I remember my birthday party. I'm dead now, aren't I?
Yeah, this is the part where he's like, maybe I shouldn't have texted her / buried her in a thing that brings them back to life.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
You're real dumb, Lewis.
We've been there, Lewis.
And so the difference because Ellie is the one that comes back versus Gage is that Gage, as a 2-year-old, can't talk about any of this. Like there's a lot more of Ellie realizing what's happening to her and her like making all of these plans, whereas with Gage, she just comes back and tries to kill everybody.
So anyway, they go to sleep, or he goes to sleep and wakes up, and then Ellie's not in the bed anymore.
And she's put her funeral dress back on.
And she's dancing in the living room.
Yeah, and we hear the Nutcracker music, and he's walking down, and we've seen like throughout the movie that she really likes ballet, and she takes
That's just in one scene, really.
Yeah, this is like a mirror of the scene earlier where they watch her. We didn't talk about it, but they watch her do ballet, and it's like a bonding scene. And like with my metaphor, you're doing the same stuff you did before, but it's evil, and you're
not
like,
the same.
God, no, why did I do this?
Because this is like some rage ballet.
Oh yeah, so it's like it was before, and then she starts losing her shit and breaking stuff around your house, and her dog starts chewing up your shoes. Like it's the bad shit's going down. Except the way that manifests itself in the movie is she's like breaking pictures and knocking stuff off of
and he's like, please stop
coffee end tables.
Stop it now, God!
Yeah. And then she does.
But she looks at him real evil, and she's like,
I'm gonna murder you.
Why did you call me over here if you didn't want me to do hang out?
Yeah, exactly. And so Judd wakes up on his back porch, and he goes over and talks to Lewis, and he's like, Lewis, what's up? Oh, and Rachel has called him.
Yeah, I mean, he just went inside, and Rachel calls him and was like, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of Lewis all day. Can you please go over there and check on him?
I'm really worried that he might have killed himself.
Yeah, there's nothing scarier than having to make that call and then waiting for a call back.
Oh, I know.
Which she never gets.
No, she doesn't. That's not Judd's fault that she doesn't get.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I did like this part because she's 22 miles outside Derry.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. She's stuck in traffic on the way to Derry.
I wanted some cameos. I wanted the collected Stephen King universe here.
But so then Judd walks up and is like, hey, Lewis. And Lewis cracks open the door and is like, hey, everything's totally fine. I'm not weird at all. I didn't do anything crazy. I definitely didn't drug you. You're just old and fell asleep on your
friend
porch.
comes and checks on you and you're like, there's definitely not an X in this house.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come in.
So he sees that his fingers are all bloody. And he also says,
that's not the metaphor.
Yeah, don't go there. He also says, I'm waiting for a call from Rachel, which Judd knows he's lying because he knows
Rachel just said, I've been trying to call him all morning.
Right. And he looks at him and he's like, Lewis, what did you do?
Yeah.
There's still time to turn this back.
I felt bad for Judd.
Because as much as he did really set the whole thing in motion, like he didn't mean any harm.
No, he was trying to help.
He was.
He knows what's going down though, because he immediately runs back to his place and gets his gun.
But before that, he sees Ellie up in the window.
Oh, yeah.
And she sees that he sees her too. So now they know. And so
she goes to grab the scalpel.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the first thing a controlling X does? Isolates you from your friend who knows she's bad news.
Yeah.
So he goes and grabs his gun, then she jumps on the roof.
I think it's maybe church that's on the roof, but I think what it's supposed to be is like the noises that Rachel heard on the roof, like the roof noises repeat. And
but it makes more sense if it's church.
It does,
because church is actually upstairs,
church
and she's not upstairs.
She's not.
So Judd goes upstairs, and he's like, "I know you're up here or whatever," and she's not. But the cat is.
Yeah.
So he checks the upstairs, starts to go downstairs.
Well, hold on. But first, they show his foot right next to the bed with his heel exposed. And if you've seen the original movie, there's that famous scene where he scalpels the shit out of his Achilles tendon right next to the bed. And so they show that, and then he kicks the bed out of the way, and there's no scalpeling. But he walks downstairs, and that's when he gets his heel scalpeled.
This is why you shouldn't wear Crocs.
Full stop. You shouldn't wear Crocs.
I had a Croc phase. They are comfortable, but they're ugly.
I broke mine falling downstairs in college.
So he gets stabbed in the Achilles tendon. It's severed. He falls down and drops the gun.
Yeah, and it's like I think he gets off a couple of shots.
I think he gets off one shot, but it's nowhere close to her. It's just like a panic shot in the ceiling.
You think Lewis would have heard a gunshot?
I don't know. I think he was trapped in the sadness psychosis too. But so she's got the bunny mask over her face, and then she pulls it up, and it's his wife's face, and we've never seen her before, but we know it's not her. And he's talking and she's like, "Oh no, not my Norma.
You're not my Norma."
Right? And she's like, "Norma sucking dicks in hell" or something like that.
I don't think she said that.
No, that's what they say in The Exorcist.
No, this is back of my metaphor.
Lord, yeah. That sounds a lot like Mikey's metaphor.
But he does say Norma's in hell and you'll be there soon too.
Yeah.
I don't think
she said it was your fault Norma died and you didn't care for her enough. And he's like, that's not true.
It wasn't true in the book.
He's got 3 good appendages. He could have fought off a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Could have kicked her in the chest, grabbed the gun, shot her in the fucking face, end of movie. But everyone makes stupid decisions in this movie.
But she did cut basically his foot halfway off.
That's true.
No, and I agree. That foot is out of commission.
And he's elderlyed up here, so...
Whatever, man. I could have beat the shit out of this kid.
That's what made me think the kid probably had some special demon powers.
It doesn't. I mean, I firmly believe it doesn't have superpowers. It is a demon, so it may be smarter than an average 9-year-old, but it has a 9-year-old's body.
No, because it had to drag the mom's body up the
deadfall.
We never see that.
Deadfall.
We don't.
But it happened. It the mom got buried.
Well, in the book, it talks about how if the power wanted you to get over the deadfall, it would help you get there.
I think, Mikey, it's dumb. but I don't think she has superhuman strength because when she's fighting the mom blocks the door and it takes her 45 minutes to break down that little door thing.
Cuts the dad's throat. He's struggling holding her arm back.
I don't think that she has superhuman strength. What I think she has is that she is possessed by an entity that doesn't feel fear and pain the way a normal child would, so doesn't back off as quickly. And I also think like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't take me out of the story.
No, because at this point it's off the rails. It's very quick. It's off the rails. It feels like they ran out of money and they were like, shit, we can only shoot 15 more minutes. We got to wrap this shit up.
No, I think what it was they were like, shit, I want to do something different. Let's just go in a totally different direction and go bonkers. Yeah, I could see arguments for that. So she just stabs the fuck out of Judd with a scalpel.
He's like, wait, you were looking for Jeff this whole time. That's not me.
No, he's getting stabbed. He's like, y'all should have got back together. And then Lewis just like wakes up. He's like, oh, where's my dead daughter? I think they're bad parents.
But at this point, this is when his wife gets home.
Yeah,
they're
she gets
definitely
home.
Bad parents. Well, he's definitely a bad parent.
Like, you didn't babysit your 9-year-old daughter first, and you're not going to babysit the zombie version of your daughter either?
Mistakes were made, Mike.
Well, okay. So Rachel and Gage get home, and this is where I do think that Rachel made a big mistake. And so Rachel
coming home?
No, hold on. We'll get to it. So Rachel and Gage are there and they're hugging Lewis. And then Ellie starts walking over and she's like,
Lewis is just trying to play it cool.
Exactly. Like, hug your daughter. This is her new life now. And Rachel, like, I think she's really trying to. And she's like, there's part of her that's like, oh, my daughter is alive. But also the bigger part of her is like horrified. Like, this isn't my daughter. And
she can tell right away it's not.
Right. And she doesn't want to hug her. And she bones out.
She goes up to her room and locks the door.
I know. And that's the fatal mistake that she makes.
Yeah.
Because your dead daughter's fucking come back to life. Your stuff is already at your parents' house. You have a place to stay. All of those details are already worked out. Get the fuck out of the house.
Even if you have a pact, if you see your daughter who is dead back to life and your husband is obviously not well.
Right. There are no barriers that would tell you stay in this house.
No.
Yeah. So he takes him back upstairs and puts him down in the crib. I start to just really fear for Gage at this point.
Well, he's the last one to die.
And Ellie is saying, see, she doesn't want me here. And like, I'll take care of her.
No, yeah, she said, I don't want her
here either.
Oh, yeah. And so then Rachel's upstairs sitting on the bed and she starts to hear Zelda noises. And then she wakes up and she's having kind of a hallucination where she is Zelda and she's in the bed and she's all like, her back is all crumpling up. And then we hear the dumbwaiter and Zelda starts to come out to get her. And she's under the covers and she says that you'll never get out of bed again, which is from the book and the first movie.
Zelda has some very effective jump scares. I'm not saying that. But
Zelda
the creepiest part is when it's actually Rachel who's seeing herself as Zelda. That's really fucking creepy.
I thought the movie was telegraphing like, okay, the daughter's going to become Zelda and crawl across the floor at her and then she's going to be paralyzed in fear.
Nope, none
of that happens. That would have been creepy as shit though.
All right. So then Rachel is like, okay, finally, like she snaps out of the dream, but then Ellie is right next to her and jumping on her with a giant butcher knife trying to stab her because Lewis has gone to find Judd. And so Lewis is out of the house. And I think Lewis finds, this is kind of happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
But Lewis finds Judd all stabbed up and Ellie is trying to attack Rachel and like gets her in the hand.
She slashes Rachel's hand.
Right.
And then Rachel, because she's fighting a 9-year-old, throws her 9-year-old across the room and then gets Gage and runs into, it sort of
like
looks like a
She
laundry
does stab her in the
room or
stomach
something
one
like
time
that.
though.
Yeah, it gets her in the side.
Yeah, sorry. She does get sliced or stabbed in the side. And then she runs to what looks like maybe another bedroom. Yeah, maybe like a laundry room or something like that. And then she barricades the door with like a table and whatever.
Yeah, and so she's trying to figure out how to get out. And she breaks the window with a chair. Lewis runs up finally, and so she drops Gage, but she's just hanging Gage out the window. And I was like, so then he drops Gage out the window into Lewis's arms. Thank God.
And then Lewis throws Gage in the car.
Yeah, and says, don't open the door.
Here, we'll be back shortly to murder you.
Here's the keys. Get out of here, Gage.
Don't open the door for anybody. I know you're 2 and you don't understand what I'm saying.
I want you to just put him on his big wheel and was like, pedal fast.
Oh,
pedal and don't look back.
Right after she drops Gage, she gets stabbed from behind in the back.
Her daughter stabs her in the back.
And twists the knife.
Yeah, and like just having that creepy smile the whole time.
Yeah.
And so they're sitting down next to each other and she's like still got the knife in her side and is just kind of like stabbing her a little bit. And she's like, it's your fault I died. You weren't watching me. You're a terrible mom.
True. All true.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not your mom. You're not my kid.
And I like that she said that.
She's
she was like,
fuck you,
no,
demon.
I didn't do this. Yeah. And so
don't call me mommy.
Yeah.
My daughter is dead.
I like this scene.
I did too. And what I think is interesting about this is because she's the one that's been so afraid of death and had the biggest problems with death, but she's the one who's able to accept it when it actually happens. And Lewis, who seems okay with death until he's actually faced with it, is the one who can't handle it and fucks everything up trying to take it back.
Because he's real stupid.
Yeah, so she just takes the knife out and stabs her again. Is like, well, you'll see your daughter in hell real soon.
Some people are better with breakups than other people.
How does Lewis get up there? Does he just run in the door and then kick her out?
Yeah, he runs up there and finds her, and then she's like, don't bury me up there, don't bury me up there.
Yeah, but what happens to his daughter at this point?
Ellie knocks him out.
Knocks him out with a thing.
And then drags the mom up into the Pet Semetary.
Anyway, Lewis goes into Pet Semetary.
Yeah.
And starts to have a conversation with his psycho daughter. Psycho daughter!
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah, and then she attacks him with a knife, stabs him in the back, or it's in the shoulder.
They're fighting. Yeah, stabs him in the shoulder. She's trying to cut his throat, and he starts strangling her. And this, like, I just imagine, like, even though you know she's your evil daughter, she still looks like your daughter. And there's a point where she turns back into her sweet daughter face.
Well, that's when he gets the shovel and he's about to like cut her head off with the shovel.
Right, yeah, but he's about to do it anyways, and then he gets stabbed from behind.
Stabbed in the back by his wife. Yeah.
Impaled. And somebody in the theater, like a couple of people were like, because I kind of was thinking something's going to happen because you keep seeing the shot where you can see behind him.
I thought he was going to kill her in the cemetery.
Really? And that's what happens in the book.
I knew
he kills Gage again. It's real sad.
I knew that they were going to have to account for the mom, because why else would she be dragging the mom into the cemetery if not to do that? So I knew the mom was going to be a thing. I thought that he would just have to kill both of them. I didn't realize that this movie would end with the bad guy winning.
Yeah, I thought either he was going to die killing them and then they would all be dead except Gage.
Right.
Or he lives and goes and stays with Gage.
Yeah.
And then pins it all on the mom.
So what happens is the
like
mom...
a good husband.
State Farm is there.
So the mom kills the dad, impales him from the back with like a cross from one of the gravestones, and they both drag him back up.
I mean, we don't really see that. The next thing we see is just that all three of them walking back to the car, and then they kill Gage, and that's the movie.
Yeah, and that's as much as I want to talk about that, because that really upsets me.
I mean, in truth, we don't see them kill Gage.
We don't.
But that is, from the very beginning, we see the house on fire, and they have just set Judd's house on fire, and you see the dad carrying a gas can, walking back to the car, and we know from the beginning that the car door was open, there was blood on the car door, and Gage was in the car. So they killed Gage. We just don't see them kill Gage.
I'm going to pretend that they don't.
But also, this is the world's slowest zombie outbreak, because the zombies have to drag them back over 50 acres of woods.
Okay, so that's the movie.
It is the movie. Okay, so the way the book ends.
Yes, please. Because I hated how this movie ended.
Yeah, I hated it too.
It ruined the whole movie
real
for
bad.
me. It ruined the whole movie for me.
So the way the book ends is, so he's killed Judd, and Lewis realizes that Gage is...
When you say he's killed Judd, you mean Gage kills Judd? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. I haven't read the book.
Well, and because he's sure, like he Achilles tendons him, and then he falls down and he slits his throat with
that sort of makes sense. Yeah, that's what happens in the movie.
And so in the book, Rachel has come back but left Ellie with her parents. So it's just Rachel that comes back. Gage kills Rachel, and then Lewis kills Gage because he realizes that this isn't working. And so he, like the syringe that he was going to do with the cat, he kills Gage. But then he realizes that Rachel has died, and he is like, oh, it's going to be different this time because it happened so soon after you died. And he convinces himself that it's going to be different. So he buries Rachel in the Pet Cemetery.
What?
And he's just sitting in his kitchen, and the very last thing is her coming back in.
Oh, man. I hated the movie, but that's not a surprise because I hate all the movies. I thought it was an effectively scary movie up until it went off the rails for me. And then I was just like, oh, I want all of these people to die because they're making the worst decisions you could possibly make. And then they all die. And I'm like, oh, cool. Now we're going to end the movie with a 2-year-old getting murdered by his parents. So cool. That's great. This is fun. Let's go record an episode on this super hell of a down note. Anyway, I hated the movie. Mikey?
Back to me. I think I also did not like the movie. It worked for me up until...
Yeah, I mean, I think it was scary.
I do think it... Yeah. I think it had a really creepy vibe, and I liked it, and then it kind of went off the rails. I did not like the ending, because to me, one of the things I love about horror is that, I feel like they're good metaphors, because there's like a good quote, like, monsters exist, and horror's point is not that monsters can get you, but that you can defeat your monsters or whatever, and you can defeat the horrors. And I don't like like it when like the whole family just comes back to kill the 2-year-old, and it just to me it just seemed like, well, what was the point of all this? No one learned any lessons. They're all still bad parents.
It's so dumb. Jen, final thoughts?
I kind of liked it, surprisingly, because it's so different from the book. And when I found out it was this different, I thought I was going to hate it. I was really pissed off when I found out in the trailer that they killed Ellie instead of Gage, although partly glad because I didn't have to watch Gage die. But
it was true to the tone.
I like it. I don't love it. The book is amazing. And yeah, kind of what I was saying. Like, it fit the tone. I do like that they went for it. I kind of like that it went off the rails at the end because it was so faithful to the book for a long time that I felt like it was slow and I kept wanting something more to happen or for it to speed up a little bit. And I feel like I enjoy it in the book because I get so much more backstory and so much more in the heads, but I just wanted it to speed up. So when it went off the rails, I was like, okay, yeah, we're finally getting to some like shit happening, you know?
All right. There's no box office that just came out like tonight.
I will say it was not as full as I thought it was going to be.
No, this movie's not going to do well.
I don't think it's going to do well.
Yeah, this is not going to do well at all.
Everybody coming out of South by Southwest was freaking out about this movie too, though. Like, it almost got more buzz than us did from South by Southwest.
I didn't feel like there was a lot of buzz going into this.
I thought, well, after South by Southwest it was, but then it kind of slowed down a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'll be interested to see how it does.
Let's do some Gen Fun Facts, though.
Gen Fun Facts. Okay, so depending on how much money it makes, they're talking about making a prequel to it. Part of me wants one and part of me doesn't. Like, I love this story enough that I kind of just want them to leave it alone.
I just want a prequel about the bull.
I mean,
I'd watch the bull prequel
I love
for
that
sure.
bull.
I know.
I can't put him down, but he's murdering half the town.
That farmer loved the bull that he has to bury the bull up. Oh, he was fucking that bull.
Jeez,
no, man,
gross.
that bull was like Babe from the movie Babe. That'll do, bull. I won't let you die. And then like he goes and kills like 40 townspeople. He's like, it's like set in like 1915.
Well, and I've heard that it's going to be like a mini series or something, but I don't know if it's actually going to happen. I just think he was talking about it. I don't really want a prequel. I wasn't thrilled when I found out this was going to be remade, but I thought they did a pretty good job with it. So who knows? So I have an uplifting fun fact. So there were 5 cat actors that played church in this movie, and they were all rescues. And only 4 of them actually ended up in the movie because one was scared when he got on set, so he had to drop out of the production.
That would be me.
Exactly.
I am that cat.
I think that cat was named Todd. He was like, nah, fuck this. I'm out. I don't even like scary movies.
Yeah, I get food whether I'm in this movie or not, so I'm out.
So on production, because they had to train these cats for 2 months and do 10.
That seems pretty quick.
Right, for cat training. And
yeah,
did
because
10
cats
weeks
are known for being sort of obstinate, not like mean, but like, what? I'm not doing
cats
this.
do what they want. Yeah. Well, so they had 2 months of training and 10 weeks of shooting, and they built what they called a little catio, which was like a little cat patio for the cats to play around with.
They're the best, man.
Yeah, well, and my last fun fact is all of the cats found homes after the production. Yeah, that's my uplifting fun fact to bring us all out of this really deep, dark well we went down in.
So I'll say this. I sort of cheaped out on box office because there really isn't any information on how much it made, but it did cost $21 million to make.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it'll make that back.
And I think that there are a lot of people that will really like this movie because I do think it's an effective, scary movie, whether you like the story or not.
To that end, let's do Scary Scale.
Scary Scale. Yeah. Okay. Hey, listeners, our Scary Scale is how we rank how scared we were by the movie. It's not a ranking of the quality of the movie. It's a ranking of how scared we were when we watched it. Our 1 example is Ghostbusters. Our 10 example is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, Todd, what you got?
I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay.
And it was very effectively scary. There are some jump scares that really, really fucked me up. Mm-hmm. And then there's some general creepy moments. But once it goes off the rails, I was fine.
Yeah.
It really wasn't that scary once it went completely off the rails, which for me, I say it was when she died, but it was really like right after Judd dies.
Yeah.
Is when it was off the rails and I just wasn't scared anymore. Mm-hmm. But up until that point, scared.
Same
Mikey?
For me. I'm going to go 5.
So 5? Okay.
Yeah, and similar points. I thought the Zelda scenes were super scary.
Yeah, man. Zelda was a counterpoint to your hot take, Jen. I was glad there was not much Zelda in there.
Right. And sometimes I think that showing less is better. So maybe they did have a cut where they showed a lot more of that and it just wasn't like, it's almost like pulling back the curtain and you see too much.
Sure.
And it takes you out. So I don't know, but I was expecting a lot more Zelda.
Sort of like the Jaws theory. You don't really see Jaws at all. Although I've never seen Jaws, but I I've
we'll
heard
watch
people
it.
talk about that.
Yeah,
I'm sure
but it's like what you imagine is worse than what you actually see.
And I thought the Judd scene was scary.
Mm-hmm.
And
you mean when he's getting killed?
Yeah, I thought that worked. And then after that, when it goes off the rails, I just wasn't invested, and I didn't think it was as scary because I thought it was just not working.
Yeah,
but I do think the effects were done well. I think it all looks really good. I just think that there are some things that
Elle's dead eye was creepy.
I kept looking at that. I was like, I wonder how they're doing that. I wonder if they put some kind of like paralyzing agent on her eyelid or something. I don't know. I think I'm going to give it a 7, and I probably would give it a 5 with you guys
if you didn't have kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
Honestly, I thought this movie would be much harder for you. I was talking to Mikey before you got to the theater, and I was like, "There's no way Jen's not crying during the episode and in the movie."
I know, dude. Yeah, I teared up a little bit at a couple of points. One when they were hanging Gage out, and like as we've been talking through it, and I've realized like what that beginning scene means, and just every time we talk about Gage, it's just so hard not to see my own child there.
Yeah, I mean, and she is full straight on Michael Jackson blanket over.
I know, and there's a point where like he almost slips out of her hands. Like, it just
she was only one story up. She should have just cradled him in her arms and jumped to the side.
That probably would have worked.
But it makes me like talking about that just makes me glad that I'm not faced with that choice, because I don't know what I would do, and it just scares the shit out of me. But yeah, so that's where those 2 extra points came, because otherwise I probably would have been
I knew
at
it was
about
gonna be
a 5.
rougher for you.
Yeah, and I'm surprised it wasn't as rough, because I listened to the Stephen King cast episode and cried in that.
I will say this: the metaphor for me of going through the grief of losing a sibling and or child sort of makes sense to me, that it does kill the entire family, just because a lot of people who lose a child, not so much that they'll kill themselves, although that does happen at a much higher rate.
But it's not like
at
higher rates.
Yeah, so divorce, and also like it affects everyone different ways.
Yeah.
And your family is never the same if that happens. And it's like, if death does not occur in the natural order, meaning your parents go before you and whatever, then it does really fuck with the family. So and I've seen that in my family, and I've seen it in like a lot of the families that lose siblings, or a parent loses a child. It just fucks them up. So like, I understood that metaphor. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, but that's what I saw in the ending.
Sense, but I don't want to see. I just like, and I get that's what happens, but like,
but I feel like I'm jenning the movie by projecting that on there.
I think you are. Well, partly because what I think the book is Stephen King, who has young children when he's writing this, like exploring death and like what it means to create a family and then send these children into the world where anything could happen to them.
Yeah.
And then in my metaphor, getting back with a bad ex ruins your whole life.
Well, until you kill her. Dumper. That's right. Sorry, dumper. Sorry.
Don't block her number. Sometimes that is better.
Yeah.
All right. And that's the movie.
So this week you guys made me watch Pet Semetary.
Yeah, you know what? We made it through. I was really dreading this one.
Yeah. So what are you guys making me watch next week?
We're watching The Grudge next week.
So this is Sarah Michelle Gellar, right?
It is Sarah Michelle Gellar, yeah.
I hate that sound.
I picked this because it's real scary, and I think it's going to really scare you.
I think it's Todd scary, too.
A lot of jump scares?
Kind of.
I've learned you're scary. And,
yeah.
I went for it.
And the listeners have too. And we've got a listener request coming up along these lines too.
You guys are jerks. Love you, mean it.
Oh.
All right. So everyone watch The Grudge before next week. We are a member of the Modern Horrors Podcast Network. So guys, check them out. And if you're listening to us and their feed on Wednesday, switch over to our feed. You'll get us 2 days earlier on Mondays.
Yeah.
But you can also listen to the Modern Horrors Podcast, Final Girls Podcast, and Death, Dying, and Other Things Podcast in their feed.
And check out their website too, because I think I have a blog that might be coming out on there too. And they've got lots of writing too.
Yeah. And their website's modernhorrors.com. Our website is horrorvirgin.com. Our socials are at horrorvirgin. If you want to follow Jen, it's at Jen Ferratu on Instagram and Twitter. And Randolph24 if you want to follow Mikey, and I am at Todd J. Awesome. Join the Facebook group. We have an awesome Facebook group that's growing every day.
Man, I really love it.
I do too. We talking there pretty much all day.
Facebook again, which I never thought I would do.
I know.
Yeah, but that's just like really the only thing I use Facebook for.
Yeah.
I don't post on Facebook anymore. It's just in the group.
But we're talking a lot in the group.
Yeah.
Like we say we don't use Facebook, but I mean, we're like doing.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I don't use it to like post to my friends and family. I just talk to the group.
Right. Yeah. It's fun. Patreon.
Oh, guys, if you want to help support us through Patreon, please do it. Patreon.com/horrorvirgin. We appreciate all you guys doing that. That's definitely doing extra. We appreciate you guys who support the show by listening to it and just talking to your friends, family, and coworkers about it.
That is an awesome way to support us.
So thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you also to all of our awesome patrons. And if you're interested in that, there's lots of great content at all the levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
like we just did an interview with Leslie Vernon. And
exactly. And everyone on Patreon can hear that. Yeah. Everyone on Patreon gets to vote on our listener requests too. Yeah. Working on maybe some possible new content for it too.
Yeah. And if you have any suggestions for new content.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always open to new suggestions for the Patreon.
All right. So that's going to be it for us, guys. Thank you so much for going down this deep, dark hole with us. I'm Jen.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your horror virgin Todd, guys. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye. Stephen King nerds.